Hello, and welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. I'm Jim, and for this series, I'll be your personal podcast Sherpa. I'm here to guide you on a trip through the mountains of podcasts out there. We'll take a look at well-established podcasts and some that are new to what I like to call Mount Podcastia. And thanks for pulling me out of the search bar. It gets a little rowdy in there. Oh, by the way, I have a weird sense of humor that may pop up on occasion, so just consider yourself warned. I'll be talking to podcasters about their podcasts, like today when we hear from Allison Sharpe, who hosts the podcast Travel Snacks. Sometimes the conversations will be silly, or serious, or somewhere in between. Plus, we'll look at the podcast charts for more shows to recommend. Sometimes we'll do theme weeks, like this week, where it's travel. What better theme than for a Sherpa? And after that, we'll look for ways to cover this embarrassing rash. I'm very new to podcasting, so keep in mind that my plan for this podcast is to evolve and grow, like better sound and some fun on social media for all of the listeners out there. And that's where I'll need your support and your feedback. So come along on our trek. Now let's talk to Allison Sharpe about travel snacks. Everyone needs to just get away every once in a while. But my guest today, Allison Sharpe, brings getting away to an art form. She hosts a podcast called Travel Snacks. And she's also a social media presence on YouTube, corporate blogger for the music industry, and public speaker as well. Please welcome my guest, the very busy Allison Sharpe. Allison, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Jim. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, my pleasure altogether. You know what I did to prep, apart from writing down every question so I don't forget? Because it's, traveling and snacks. I got the bag of snacks with me here, too.
Oh, awesome. Well, I always carry a bag of snacks wherever I go, so I have a bag of snacks also. So we're both good to go.
Okay, that's great. This one is called, not a sponsor, Hippeas, Hippeas. It's organic chickpea puffs. They're kind of like cheese doodles or Cheetos or that type of thing. Pretty good stuff.
I haven't tried that yet, so I'll have to add that to my list.
Yeah, give it a shot. I would recommend it. All right. How did you first get the idea for your podcast?
Well, I have been traveling for a while, and I was starting out doing YouTube. When I was going on an extensive travel, I was like, okay, I'm going to do YouTube. I'm going to film it. But that became too tedious in terms of editing. So what I decided after that was like a 2.5 month journey. And when I got back, I was like, there's no way I can travel, work, and edit videos. So I was thinking, like, what would be an alternative to that would take a little less time? And so I thought maybe a podcast would be better because the editing is a little bit less intensive. And then I don't have to, even brush my hair or put on makeup. I can just record. So it's definitely been a lot easier. And it's been so much fun as well. So that's kind of how I came up with doing the podcast.
Yeah. And I noticed, while you're talking about YouTube, your sons are also involved with YouTube. Also, is that true?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. They're both full-time YouTubers. And my older son, Marcus, he does football, YouTube reactions. And my younger son, Justin, he does music, like beats and production. So they're full-time YouTubers and they're really doing great.
And to really complete the family affair, I notice you have a video on your website where your parents make an appearance.
Yes. Yeah. I was doing a bunch of different, just variety of videos, just kind of like, trying different things out. And one of them, I have my parents in there. So yeah, our family, we like to do, crazy things and, have fun and stuff like that.
I can imagine what your household is like around the holidays. Everybody's got a camera, right? Okay, let's eat mashed potatoes.
Actually, it's funny because when we're all together, we try to not really be on social media and not be like stuck to our phones and stuff like that. But, there's a time and a place, for everything. But, we like to have fun wherever we go. And if there's something interesting, then, we'll pull out a camera or a phone or something like that. But all in all, for the most part, we try to keep it like, family time.
Sure. Hey, I don't blame you. You can't be a Kardashian, right? You don't want to be one of those. Right? I don't blame you. Apart from travel and snacking, because that's right in the title, what else does your podcast like to talk about?
Well, so far, it's really been talking a lot about traveling, the places that I've been going to. I do segment into some travel tips. So if people don't want to listen to all my stories, they can just listen to the tips about travel. And also just I encourage people to travel. So that's why I try to give as many like tips and tricks and things like that. And then, of course, I like to talk about, eating while I'm on the road, snacks and food, restaurants. And then I'm going to jump into dating at some point. But so far, I just haven't had a time to not even date, let alone talk about dating. So
does make it a little tricky, right?
Yeah, because
we're not on this date.
Yeah, it's just so hard to, travel and date at the same time because I'm never really in one spot to really do that. So at some point maybe I'll add that in if I get any crazy stories, but so far it's been pretty slim in that area.
Okay, that's all right. I'm sure in time you'll be mastering the dating podcast too.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, we have got a couple of travel questions for you. What would you say are your go-to items when you go on any of your trips? What do you definitely has to have with you?
Well, some of the things, there are things I never really thought about until I started traveling extensively. But one of them is a pretty obvious one, but it really is. It makes a big difference of walking shoes. So it's a good idea to try different shoes, just in your hometown or whatever. Find a pair that's really going to be working for a lot of walking. Because if you get a new pair of shoes and you're just like on a first time trip with those shoes, it's going to be bad if you get blisters and stuff like that. So good pair of walking shoes. Another thing that people don't really think about, and I didn't even think about this ahead of time, is a travel towel. So I got a microfiber towel. It was pretty inexpensive. It was probably like $12 on Amazon. And it folds pretty flat, so it's easy to put in my carry-on. Because there's a lot of times where I'll stay at an Airbnb or a budget hotel, and the towels are probably not ones that you'd want to use. They could be like appearing a little crusty or a little like worn. So I always bring my own microfiber towel just in those cases. And let's see. And then always have like a little, small first aid kit, like with Neosporin, of course, Band-Aids. Any medications you take, and then, things like Gas X or Tums or anything like that, because if you're eating a lot and different things, you never know. So you might need some first aid, things like that.
In travel, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right. Now your website says that you've been to 15 countries so far. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
What's been one of your favorite travel destinations so far?
This is such a hard one because everywhere is so different, and also the way that you feel when you're in certain countries and places also makes a big difference as well. But I'd say if I had to, pick a couple places, I'd say I really, really enjoyed Argentina. That was a really great area. Everybody was super friendly. The food was great. I also enjoyed Budapest a lot. That was a place that I never even thought to go to, but a friend recommended it. And so I went by myself and I really enjoyed it. It was great. A lot of people spoke enough English so that I didn't, so I could get around. Mm-hmm. And the public transportation was really laid out well. And they also had a lot of great food there too. So those two, I'd say, are kind of at the top of my list. I really enjoyed both those places.
Okay. Did you have any crazy travel stories on any of your trips?
Oh my gosh. I've had definitely a lot of crazy travel stories.
You can share one if you want. You don't have to crack open the book if you don't want to.
Yeah. Let's see. One of them, oh man, like this one time I was in Salerno, Italy, and I couldn't really find this place that I was supposed to go to. It was this part of Italy that's kind of like a maze with the cobblestone streets and everything's real close to each other. So I finally found my Airbnb. It was on the 4th floor, no elevator. The host let me in and took off. So great. I was inside, put all my stuff down. I grabbed my camera. I was, at that point I was trying to do YouTube. So every time I would get into an Airbnb or a hotel, I would walk back out, film me going in. So I'd have the footage. So this particular time, it was a very hot day. I was really frazzled because just trying to get there. And so I put all my stuff down, grabbed my camera, walked outside and started taking the video. And then I heard the door slam behind me. And I didn't have anything with me, my phone, my key to get in the place. I didn't have my purse, anything. So all I had was myself and my camera. And I was just like, no, 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 no. What am I going to do? Like, I don't speak the language. I don't have any way to contact the host or anybody. And I had a slight panic attack at that point.
I think anybody would.
So basically, I just stood there for a few minutes trying to gather myself. And then I just it was on the 4th floor. So I walked to the 3rd floor, started knocking on doors. Hopefully somebody would answer and speak enough English so we could, talk it out. So probably around the 2nd floor, I found somebody. It was a nice young guy, probably about 20. And, he spoke enough English and he helped me out. He knew the host of the Airbnb, luckily. So we got it sorted out, but it was definitely one of those moments where you're like, oh my gosh, this is terrible.
Well, here I am. I'm finally here, and now I'm locked out of the room.
Yep. Yeah. So that's a tip for everybody. If you want to take any pictures or videos, make sure that you have the key with you anytime you do anything.
Now, when you go away, do you travel by yourself or do you go with a group?
So I typically travel by myself, but I always try, like, if I can, to go with somebody. So on my last journey to South America, one of my friends, she was traveling to South America for 6 weeks. So we traveled together. And then after the 6 weeks, she went on to New Zealand and I went on to Brazil. So I always try, if I know of somebody that's going to an area that I'd like to go, then I try to plan my trip so that I'll spend a chunk of time with somebody I know, because it's always better to travel with somebody.
Sure. Is there anything that makes the ideal travel partner for you?
Oh yeah, there's a lot of things. I think that's a major thing to think about and talk about prior to any travel is if you're going to travel with somebody, there should be a lot of communication before you even plan the trip and before you even take off to the trip, because you have to know each other's travel style. Certain people, like the travel style where they're just go, go, go. They have an itinerary, and there's, a different travel style where you're just more of, leisurely and just kind of go spontaneous to whatever. And also, like for me, I work remotely. So for me, it's not a vacation. It's travel and I do work. So I work in the morning, and then I explore in the afternoon and then, on weekends. So for me, I am not the kind of person that can do like fast travel. So if somebody that's going and they want to be on the go, then I usually decline and say, no, it's not going to really work for me. So I think the ideal travel partner is somebody that shares a similar travel style, or at least if they don't, that they're fine with doing things independently from you. And then you guys can kind of go back and forth, spending time together while you're there.
Okay. Do you have any favorite like travel hacks, like when you're preparing for a trip or by the time, like when you first walk in the hotel or the Airbnb, anything that you could share? You don't have to give away the top secret ones.
Oh no, I have no problem. So travel hacks, I'd say, well, these aren't really like, I don't know if they're hacks or not, but I would say for sure, one of the greatest things that I did was get the global entry, which is the pass that it comes with TSA pre-check. And that's been really great because it saves you time. I never thought I needed it before. And then I got it and I'm like, oh, wow, like, where's this been? Like all my life, it's probably been around and I just didn't get it. It's only $100 and it's good for 5 years. So it not only gets you through TSA pre-check, but it also gets you through customs faster when you come back to the United States. And that's been really great. Other travel hacks, I'd say always bring earplugs with you. wherever you go. I carry a bag of the little, the brand name is Max earplugs, and they come in a little box of 50, and I just put like 20 in a little Ziploc bag because I'm a light sleeper. And so there's times where you're going to be somewhere and your hotel room might be next to like a road or like an area that there's like a bar or something. So you can always just use your earplugs at night. And in terms of like, another travel hack that I recently did is I got the, it's the Charles Schwab, account. It's like a checking account. And it comes with a debit card, and that debit card you can use anywhere, and they reimburse you for all ATM fees. So a lot of times when you're on the road, you'll, use any ATM, of course, and it'll charge you like between $6 to $10 every time you pull money out. So what they'll do is they'll reimburse you for all those fees. So, you're not getting dinged every time that you pull out money. So
that's great. Yeah. That's something not a lot of people really think about either.
Yeah. On top of that, you should also have a credit card that's from a company that doesn't charge foreign transaction fees. Like I have the Capital One card, and that one doesn't charge transaction fees. So those are a few things that I would definitely look into before going on like a longer international travel for sure.
Okay. I always see this story on the news and I look and I can never really verify it. The ongoing debate is there a better time or a better way to buy plane tickets? Some people say, you get on a Wednesday at 2:00 in the morning, it's $100 cheaper. And is there any truth to any of that? Or it's just you get the tickets when you get the tickets and maybe like a certain time out, like if it's 6 weeks away from the trip or anything like that?
Well, I have zero insider information on that, but I can just tell you from my experience that to me, because I've heard the same thing, like if you do it on like the Tuesday 6 weeks before or whatever the thing is, every time I've done that, it's never cheaper or whatever. So I don't know. I have a theory. It's probably, I don't know if it's right or not right, but it's just in my brain. So I make things up, as I go. But I think what happens is like if you try to book a ticket and it's really expensive, and on some of these sites it'll say only 2 seats left or 3 seats left, I will skip that flight and wait maybe like a few more days or a week until that plane is full, because then I feel like they're going to probably add another flight because that plane is full. They're going to want to get more flights. So I wait for a few days, and then usually there's another flight going to the same destination around the same time, and so they're usually, to me, it seems like the tickets are just a little bit less because now they're trying to fill up that plane. So again, I have no like knowledge of that, but from my experience, it seems like there's always they always add new flights to popular destinations. And so I don't know about any of the hacks in that area. I do know that if you are the kind of person that has flexibility, there are several airports that are just known to be a lot less expensive. So you can fly to Paris for very cheap. You can fly to Rome for very cheap. Usually, sometimes Iceland is inexpensive. So those are a lot of places in Europe that you can go to that's very inexpensive to get there. And then you can use public transportation when you're there. And also once you're in Europe, it's pretty easy to get around for like sometimes $50 to $100 to other countries within Europe. So I would definitely just check out Google Flights, which will tell you which areas are the cheapest. But those are the ones that typically have good deals.
Okay. I got to ask you a question that I know when my wife hears this podcast, she's going to punch me because she knows that I was thinking of her. How many bags do you pack when you travel?
So I'm like probably anybody else. So when I first started the big travels, I carried a big, regular checked bag and then a, like a personal item. I was gone for 2.5 months on that trip. That bag was 40 pounds. And I was like, no way, never again. So now I only travel with a carry-on and a personal item. So my carry-on is, probably, I don't know. I'd like to say it's under 20 pounds, but I know it's not. It's probably more like 26 pounds with my stuff. And then I just carry like kind of like a big purse as my personal item. And so I just put that one under my seat. And at first I was like in my mind thinking, when somebody told me, oh, let's just go down to carry-on. And I was like, there's no way I'm going down to carry-on. I can't do that. But it's really not as hard as you think once you actually start thinking about what you need. So now that I have a carry-on, it's like, to me, it's so much easier to, you spend a lot less on checked luggage because you don't have to pay for that extra fee. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of like rotate your outfits and, just kind of go a little bit more scarce. But yeah, that's basically at this point what I'm traveling with.
From your lips to her ears, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm a cat myself too. Just cram everything in there, and I on it too. It makes it, I think, a little more convenient. So you're not standing there by the carousel, where you could just be going out to start to enjoy your trip.
Yeah, and also, people always used to say, "Oh, get packing cubes," and I was like, I don't even think that's gonna work, because what's that really gonna do? It just, organizes stuff, and I don't want to put it in that way. But then I jumped on the bandwagon. I got some packing cubes from Amazon, and now I swear by the packing cubes, because it doesn't seem like it's going to work until you do it. And then you roll up your stuff in there and you squish it and you pack it in there. And then it just like, kind of compresses it. And it might compress it down like 1 or 2 inches, sometimes 3 inches. And those, when you have a carry-on, every inch counts. So I would definitely, if you're going to go the carry-on route, I would invest in some packing cubes, and they're not expensive. You can get like 4 for like $20 on Amazon. So I would definitely recommend that.
Okay. No, I mean, your podcast is also about snacking. What's the best snack you've ever eaten in a foreign country? I know that's a weird question.
Oh man. Well, it's like there's so many different things that you can get in all these countries, but I'd say one of the best things that I never heard about before was called taqueños, and it's kind of like it's a cheese stick, but it's not like our like mozzarella sticks. It's more like like an egg roll kind of. But it's just like cheeses on the inside, and then they bring it with guacamole. So it's a kind of weird combination, but it's fried and it's delicious. So that was a thing that I had that I really loved.
Yeah, and I know one of your more recent episodes was about the 7 snacks that you should be bringing with you when you're going on a trip.
Oh yes, yeah. I think there's definitely a difference of snacks that you get, while you're traveling, and there's a difference between snacks you bring with you, like in your bag. Some of the snacks that I talked about in that episode are more like snacks that you can, they're more portable snacks so that you have them at any time. Like I talk about beef jerky. I also talk about like trail mix. And then the, spoiler alert, the number one travel snack is granola bars. Yeah, for me, granola bars is just like, the most portable, easy, inexpensive thing to bring. They're in their own wrapper. They're not heavy, and you can usually get those in most places, and they fit nicely in your little travel pouch.
Okay. And I loved your episode about the airlines. Oh. The 7 things that they need to stop doing. And what would be a perfect flight for you?
Oh man. Well, the perfect flight for me starts with lower prices.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, I know they have a company to run, but of course we're all trying to, save money, but I don't know. Like my ultimate dream is I've so far never flown first class. And well, actually I flew first class on like an hour flight, but that's because they bumped me up. But it wasn't something I paid for. But I would love to, try the first class with all the extra room. The perfect flight for me, which I'm going to be doing a podcast episode, maybe more than that, but I have all these grand ideas that they should kind of revamp airplanes to have like a family section where the back is just like soundproof with all the people with kids. They get that section so that there's no babies crying in the main cabin. I'd say the perfect flight would be free snacks, of course.
Of course.
I'd say the perfect flight. Oh man, there's like so many things I can think of just off the top of my head, but
probably with the easy check-in and the easy way to get
the easy check-in, maybe even like the attendants helping you put your carry-on bags up ahead of time. Like they just take all of them and put them up for you, like, so that you're not waiting in line for everybody to kind of do their own. Oh, there's just so many different things that I can think of. But basically, I think for everybody, it's comfort, just being comfortable and relaxed.
That sounds great. I know they were showing some articles about certain airlines. I don't know which airlines they were. I don't even know if they were in the United States, but they basically strap you in, but you're standing the whole flight. Oh. You're in like almost harness.
Whoa.
I guess it's probably eliminates crowding. I guess they fit more people on the plane or something like that. Would you do something like that? I don't know how I would feel about that.
I would do it if it was a shorter flight. I would not want to stand for a long flight, but for a shorter flight, I think I'd do it if there, if it could get more people and lower the price. That's interesting that you said that, because I recently read an article because I was looking up information about, boarding flights and like the best way to board. But they had somebody, I don't know who did it, but they had this kind of blueprint to where what they did is and I'm going to try to explain it, but it's easier to see like the picture. What they did is in the boarding area, like in the actual airport, they'd have people sit down and get in their seatbelts, like sit down and strap in. And then they would like lift the whole container like they do like on military things. And they would put it, like drop it inside the cabin of the plane. I don't know if that makes sense, but like they would just pick up the whole seating area and drop it inside the plane and then seal the top of the plane. So I guess they were like looking at different ways for people to board more quickly and easily. But I felt like it'd be kind of like a crane picking up this whole seating area and like dropping it inside the top of the plane. It was so weird and interesting that somebody would take the time to actually draw that up and think about that. But I guess it would save time if everybody just sat down inside the airport and where their seat number was.
Yeah. And sometimes those seating sections, when they call you in, it gets a little confusing. And you get a little anxious sometimes when you're waiting to get called on too.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, this is a podcast about podcasts. So I got to ask you the almighty podcast question. If you were stuck in an airport with no luggage and just your phone, what podcasts would you be listening to?
Oh, man. That's a good one. Let's see. I like this podcast. It's called You Up. It's like a podcast about dating, and it's just like really funny stories. It's a guy and a girl, and they just talk about like really funny questions. And they have like people like write in letters about weird dating stories. So that one is like a kind of a guilty pleasure podcast. I also like this podcast, Real Talk with Rachel Luna. She's an entrepreneur, and she just talks about different entrepreneur things and having confidence and marketing and things like that. And then I also like the David Madow show. He's a vegan, and he talks about eating and food. I'm not a vegan at all, but for some reason I like listening to him and his, stories about health and stuff like that. So those are some of my favorite podcasts.
Oh, wow. And now is the portion of the interview that we like to call shameless self-promotion. So if you want to let everybody know, you name your podcast and where else they can get in touch with you.
Sure. So my podcast is available pretty much anywhere that you can listen to a podcast. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher. You can also reach me at my website, which is travelsnackspodcast.com. And you can also email me there as well. It's snack@travelsnackspodcast.com. And then right now I'm focusing mostly on Instagram, which again, it's Travel Snacks Podcast. Or I have a personal Instagram, which is AllisonLoves_, which is where I usually post most of my travel pictures. And then I'm on YouTube as Allison Loves. And then I'm going to try to dip my toe back into Facebook, which I kind of got off of it for a while because I wasn't really interested in it. But I know there's a lot of activity on Facebook, so I'm going to, probably ramp that up as well. And that's going to be Travel Snacks Podcast as well.
Okay. Well, Allison, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And I want to tell everybody, please check out Allison's podcast. You're really going to like it. And check out her webpage too and her YouTube videos. They're really great. And if you want to find any information on Allison's shows and all the other links and the podcasts that we just mentioned, they'll be on the show notes. And now it's time to take a trip to advertising land. And now a word from your Sherpa. Oh, that's me. Yeah, that's right. If you liked Allison's podcast, here's a couple of other travel podcasts that you can check out. They're called Travel Genius, The Cruise Geeks, Amateur Traveler, and Zero to Travel. They're all highly rated. Drop me a line. Let me know what you think of them, okay? And happy travels. Thanks so much for checking out my podcast. And a special thanks to my guest, Allison Sharpe. And be sure to check out her podcast, Travel Snacks. Feel free to write something nice about me in an iTunes review or anywhere that podcast reviews may appear. And as they say, if you've got nothing nice to say, there's always extortion. Especially if you'd like to make a donation to support this podcast. Anyway, you can listen to me on Pocket Casts, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, and Radio Public. If you're on social media, check out Too Many Podcasts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. They're under development right now, but you can still post stuff. If you'd like to recommend podcasts, or if you host a podcast, or if you have comments, or questions about the meaning of life that you know I can't possibly answer, feel free to contact me at jimthepodcastsherpa@gmail.com. You can also leave voice messages for me through the Anchor app. I'd love to hear from you. Any information on today's show is on the show notes. So I'll see you next time on Mount Podcastia. And as we Sherpas like to say, what do you mean there's no Wi-Fi on this mountain? Anyway, enjoy your day. Thanks for tapping play, and thanks for listening. Bye.